Hey, hey, hey. It's Michael, and we're here with Drew. And of course, Corey. So today is a little different. We're just gonna be talking.
Like
you saw the horns come out of Drew's head.
No, we're gonna freestyle it today, I guess.
We're gonna be talking. All right. We won't stay on this too long, but there's a lot of things going on, right? We just had the Super Bowl, yay. We got a new president, yay. We got a lot of stuff. So, and it's Black History Month, yay. There's a lot. So,
that apparently is canceled, so
yeah.
I mean, people say that, certain sections of people say that rather, but I'm like, if you have American history, you're gonna have black folks pop up in it, so no. You can try to relegate it to a single month.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, dude, no. It's we're kind of ingrained in the history itself, so you whatever.
But
Right.
what actually happened is the White House released a saying that all the federal holidays are suspended until further notice. And that included Black History Month, Native American History Month, Women's History Month, and all those. Like, it's a list.
Yeah, they just happen to do that right now.
Right before Black History Month. So.
Right.
And here's my thing, to even be like middle way about it, I'm not like a big holiday celebrator. My family, they don't really like celebrate holidays. I've never been raised in a household where that was like a thing. All we know, like we were saying before the show, we as kids, we kind of just went along with it because it meant a day off usually, or a half day usually, an acknowledgement of this person, this thing. They got, what was it back when it was Columbus, before everybody got hip to the fact that Columbus was like a piece of crap. They celebrated like his holiday, and I think we got a day off for that, didn't we? Columbus Day.
Yeah.
We didn't think why. We didn't really question it, and it was just like, all right, whatever. And it's kind of the same thing now. It's like, well, you want to acknowledge these holidays now conveniently after X, Y, and Z happens. Whatever.
But you know what? That goes into a deeper meaning of the type of school you went to. So I went to a public school. I mean, a private school. Most public schools don't go over the information that, we learn in private school. So I think 3rd or 4th grade is when we started learning about how Christopher Columbus came over, meeting with the Native Americans, and why we have Christopher Columbus Day and how it ties into Thanksgiving, and then the whole measles and atrocities that happen. So we learned about that in 3rd or 4th grade. And the older I get, and I talk to different people, if you went to a charter school, if you were homeschooled, you get a vastly different education based on where you live, what school you went to. So I think social media now is at a point where all of the information that we're getting is kind of equal, give or take. So I think that's what's helping everyone get to a consensus that, this is what it really means, while you have people who already know the information versus people who are learning the information.
Well, I'll say to that one, it's a bit of a mixed bag, because I went to private school for the latter half of my education. I went to private high school. And there is kind of, there's a notion that they kind of to expect you to have certain details or certain bits of information. But overall, I would say it wasn't terribly different from my years in public high school. In which, however, they'll say like where they give you the textbooks and they give you what chapters to review. The details are there, but like it's selective. Very, very selective. When you get to private schools, the information is there, but it kind of assumes that like you've already gotten the basic, coverage of it. But I don't know. It's a bit of a mixed bag. I wouldn't say it's necessarily one or the other, but it is a bit of a mixed bag with what they give, what information that they'll give you, and the information that they expect you to kind of know on your own.
And then I guess we can take that to another level. It depends on the educator, because like if you go to a rich school, they teach you how to think in a business mindset. They don't teach you memorization, and certain schools teach you the step further, what's beyond the textbook, how to look past the information that you're giving. So, that's, like you
It
said,
depends on the teacher and how they get down and how they teach you. Some teachers, they will go in depth and go into every nook and cranny of the era, the setting, the circumstance, the entire thing. And then you have other teachers that will literally just be like, we're going to chapter 3, and they just follow that rubric just from textbook and won't go a step further.
Well, let's take a step. So we're teetering on history, right, and how it's presented towards us. One thing historically, go back at least within the, what do you say, the Western European whole Roman. Let's distract people with gladiators, and let's distract them with spectacle and Olympics and Super Bowl. These big events like that are a great distraction for people not to focus on things that are important, like people being able to afford food. But they know who's playing. They know who's playing in the Super Bowl.
That's true.
And even if you're
sorry, no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, and even if you're not into football, you could at least talk about the halftime show, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Your face. You're like, I don't care about either. You are not the norm, Drew.
It is like you were saying. It is kind of the modern gladiatorial games of our day. Like it's rough out there. Folks, food is expensive, living is expensive. Lots of folks are without jobs. Lots of folks are without homes. So it's like, but the Super Bowl, everybody knew who was playing this year. I didn't. But everybody that I knew out there was like, "Oh yeah, man, we're gonna." I'm like, well, it's funny. It's we can all still make time for the BS. And I'm not necessarily crumbing on it if it gets people's spirits up. A part of the reason as to why, when you study the history why Romans did that, it's because lots of times people's morale will be down, and be it for reasons of greed or reasons of we can't provide for the people, it's like, yo, give them some gladiatorial games or something just to get them out of a funk. It's a distraction. Right. It's something, and then pass out what supplies we do have. That's where they would pass out bread to the audiences and stuff like that, because that would be kind of a means of getting the people congregated, getting the morale up, and then feeding who you could. Right? So it kind of, I guess, football games, even though I make fun of it as like the foosball and stuff, but it's like it's kind of that, serves that purpose in a society. Lots of more kids who are poor know who a football player is versus a doctor or someone in their neighborhood.
Their congressman or congresswoman.
Someone who can actually enact some type of change. They don't know who they are from a hole in the ground, but they do know who Travis Kelce is.
Oh, by the way, anyone that's upset that I said congressman or congresswoman and I didn't just say congress person.
We know what you mean, Seven.
Get it over. Well,
Try not to get canceled. I got you.
Try not to get. But if I am going to get canceled, let it be for a good reason. I'm not trying to get caught up in that.
The names of the people that you're mentioning, they actually get out into the community. So if I know my mayor, it's because my mayor is actually out in the community and he's more visible rather than just staying in the office. So we see these people who are, pushed on billboards and social media. Yes, I know who Travis Kelce is because he's being put out there. But, you have certain politicians and Congress people who you will know because, again, they're putting themselves out there.
Right.
So Congress people, get out there.
Yeah, I do think that, to be fair, as a side note on this topic, that people in these positions of power, which really you're in positions to help people, not necessarily, we have to kind of change the way we look at it. Like, you work for the people versus I'm in a position of power. But with that being said, yeah, people know about, if worst case scenario, the halftime show. The big thing was, or at least the thing that we were promoted to believe was the big thing, was the Kendrek Lamar performance. Now, Corey, we had very different views on.
Yeah, let's do it.
On the performance. And to be fair, I saw clips and different things. What I saw, I was not impressed. I saw like the breakdown of, well, he was so deep here and da 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 da, and but I also the you had some racist backlash of, oh, this ghetto-ness, this and this and that. But even from the black community, why couldn't we do something better? You have an opportunity to perform, and pretty much everyone around the world tuned in or tunes in to the halftime show, even if they don't like American football. Couldn't we do better? Do we have to glorify, quote unquote, ghetto-ness of?
How okay?
Mm,
How are we going? All right. So first off, my first point
mm,
is what you're saying. You didn't see the entire performance. That's like saying I saw clips of a movie and I judged it on that whether if it's a good movie or not, right? So if
mm,
you see it in its entirety
mm,
and you know the director, you know the whole purpose of the movie, you get a completely different message. A lot of people went into the Super Bowl performance
mm,
not really knowing Kendrick's music and his background and his storytelling ability. A lot of the songs from his album, including the Uncle Sam,
mm,
including the streets and the American flag, his message of bringing everyone together is in his albums and in his music, and you can see that in the performance.
mm,
What people were saying is just because there were streets, there were only three colors, red, white, and blue, you automatically assume it was Bloods and Crips, not talking about the American flag. They were picking this apart. And here we go saying,
oh, well, that's interesting because I haven't heard that. I mean, even though you do have one of the most successful female athletes ever doing a crip walk, which is kind of ironic because I believe that her cousin was murdered by a crip. So why are you doing a crip walk during?
so that's the other thing too.
Right.
So we're tying things that no longer are associated with gang culture. Now it's considered a dance, right? We're in social media, we're in challenges, and it's no longer gang activity. We haven't fought over colors for a few decades now. But when she did it at one of her games in Wimbledon, because she's from the area and that's their culture in that state, we're going to say, oh, the worst things about that area is it's gang related. It's definitely not if somebody came out and said, no, this is the dance, this is the way of life. That's like crumping, that's like breakdancing. We're going to say,
Mm,
oh, only black people do this, where it's really not. It's a worldwide thing. So I think that is where we are missing the communication as a society.
mm. What do you think, Drew?
Full transparency, I didn't see the performance because I was catching up on Dragon Ball Daima, and but
You caught the date. We'll talk about that later.
yeah. But that being said, I am fairly familiar with Kendrick Lamar's music. I'm what you call a casual fan. I got tracks from To Pimp a Butterfly, Damn. I got random like snippets of his stuff. He's good, and from a music standpoint, I will say lyrically, he is what you guys already said. He's a storyteller.
Mm,
And a lot of his story is woven into a lot of the socio-political stuff that goes on in this country. It's a lot of historical stuff. It's a lot of like, I guess you could call transgressive, what like hip hop is transgressive by nature. But the
mm,
idea is like that transgressive style of storytelling where one is accountable for one's own sins, but also aware of what the grander condition of their life, his or her life circumstances.
mm,
So when you reference, I guess in his performance, he was wearing like the primary colors were red, white, and blue.
Mhm.
My head goes in two directions when it comes to dealing with Kendrick Lamar and how musically and lyrically he works. It could be about Bloods and Crips, but also too, there's a grander narrative of red, white, and blue being the American flag
correct.
and
Right.
how we tie into that. There's always going to be a grander spectrum, micro versus macro. From the surface, you see gangs and two sets of black people killing each
Mhm,
other. That's the surface, but on a grander view, it's because of the conditions and the
mhm,
history in which it's there. That's just kind of where, if you're kind of familiar with Kendrick, you're
right.
going to know that he's going to teeter with, the
Right.
concepts of the powers that be versus how we get down in the world.
But here's the other level of that, right? After the Super Bowl performance, because everyone was picking this apart, he came out and said, "This is what this section means. This is what I meant when this part of the flag was shown." And he specifically said it was for unification of our society. Yes, he used the American flag, and he wanted to show that we are segregated. We're not really together. We know that. If he came out with a performance and said, "This is what I'm saying," why is the narrative against what he's saying?
Because those are the
That doesn't make sense.
It's divided. It doesn't make sense, but I'm gonna explain how the logic is roughly working. When an artist puts something out, it's interpreted by the audience in whatever way. You could have a mixed bag. It could be largely positive. It could be largely negative. The artist then goes and publicly says, "This is what I meant with factors X, Y, and Z of this piece."
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people will be like, "Oh, okay, they explained it." The ones that just don't want to get it and are set on that initial narrative, they're gonna keep hold on. No, I'm gonna hold on to this other narrative because I don't like the explanation that I got. They prefer this way of looking at it. Whether that's just, and on this topic, is it racism? Is it just that pig-headedness of the American sense of what is right and what constitutes ghetto culture or whatever? I don't know. That's like I'd have to take a head count of everybody involved.
And to the point, how we started this conversation really had nothing to this guy. Actually, I thought he was brilliant. Just because it was a different perspective. Also, he's African, so
Okay.
and he had a whole thing in the beginning. Hey, check this out. What I'm saying. But this is coming from what was it? The Merc.
He said a place of love.
Yeah, a place of love. And that's the thing. I think that like the American flag was kind of I don't think he's that deep. So I think it was very obvious the things he was saying. I don't think anything he said was necessarily wrong or evil at all. I think he's very basic. Like if this was deepness, he's right here. At least this is what I got from it, from what I saw of the performance and stuff like that. People trying to make it a Rosetta Stone and trying to dig deep and find deeper meaning.
Add a bunch of symbols and layers to it.
Yeah, I think that's why as an artist, as a writer, I never got too attracted to him. I do think he's better than what's out there as far as many of the rappers that are being pushed by the machine. But so I now
1 second.
what happened? We are live, folks. Let's see if I bump that up. Yeah. So if I said John walked to the store and bought some milk, that's the story. That's what's happening. I'm just describing what's happening. Kendrick reminds me a little bit about Nas. Nas got to a certain place as a writer where he'll say, John walked to the store, 40 acres and a mule, and he bought some unk. Da 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 da. Like he'll throw some random things in there that by themselves are deep, but in the context of the story, no, you threw random things in there. Again, that's my personal take as a writer.
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there, Seven.
Right.
Just because let's again use your analogy of John wakes up and walks down the street to go get some milk. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Kendrick Lamar would take you down that same street. He's on his way to get the milk, but he'd show you the color of the pavement. He'd talk about the bloodstains. He'd talk about how there's a chick blowing a guy in the alley down the street, and he'd weave this in. He'd, if nothing else, weave in lyrically like the colors red, white, and blue were along the way, right? That's it's a simple thing. So you're right in that regard. He's kind of like, it's on the surface. Mm-hmm. The main plot is he's walking down the street to get some milk.
Right.
Kendrick's way is he walks down the street to get the milk, but then we'll paint this picture of you in the American condition in that one image. He's a good storyteller for that. I got to give him that.
And again,
right?
I'm not...
Also,
I don't want to spend an hour on how wonderful he is or not wonderful he is,
Okay,
because some
Devin.
things become a taste. It becomes a taste. You know what I mean?
So
Like think people like that. But hold that thought. The reason why this conversation started was because when the Merc was talking about the performance, his thing was not to take away from the fact that Kendrick Lamar is a poet, was not to take away from the fact that where he stood as far as contemporary rappers today. His point, what I got from what he was saying is like, if you if you need to overly explain every little thing that happened in a performance that was allegedly supposed to be created for a mass society, all ages, all ethnicities. It was supposed to be a performance for everyone, not a secret one for tall people, not a secret one for black people or white people. Then you failed.
Yeah.
You failed as a writer. You failed as a presentation, and you shouldn't leave confused. I think it's very basic, so I don't think it was that deep. But if if there's a lot of people that were left confused, then you didn't hit the mark as an artist. If that was your goal, that they're paying you to entertain all these people.
so
And he was also trying to say that we can do better than constantly showing images of one section of black culture and society, because we're more than just the stereotypical ghetto imagery. Like there's more, we're constantly saying we're not a monolith, but then we have individuals that get out there and that's all they show. This one little
We're
thing
not a
of black
monolith. We
culture.
don't fall in the category that we're not certified. We don't have our
Right.
black cards get taken or whatever. Yeah.
so you know what? This is my issue with that video that you sent.
Okay.
What I got from it is I'm not going to say racist, anything racist, but insert the most racist thing that I'm going to say. You can't sit here and say, "Oh, I'm going to give him his props as a storyteller. He's the best of our generation right now." But the story he told didn't make sense. It made perfect sense because you didn't listen to him. So the other thing of that is, oh man, I have so many things going through my mind.
And I got to send that to you, Drew, because I might have sent it to you.
I'm gonna watch it because again, I haven't seen it. So
Right.
I'm
And
gonna watch
Corey,
it.
I agree with you with that. He did. I think him trying to make excuses and trying to shield himself from any hate,
Mhm.
he should not have done that, because he wastes a good 5 minutes saying this stuff, and it's like, no, have an opinion. See me, I have an opinion. I don't care if it's not the most popular in the room. I am actually a writer. I'm an artist, so that's cool if I don't agree with everything. But you can't. Well, no, you can't. But it's very plain to see where he is at versus what else is out there, and Kendrick Lamar is on another level. That is something I don't think that could be argued. But then the bar is so low, and again, in many people's opinion, as far as hip hop, and when I say that, not that there aren't brilliant 14-year-olds that could rhyme better than Drake and all of them. It's just that what the machine is putting, he is here because he is keeping the tradition of storytelling. He is keeping the tradition of poetry in hip hop, and that's something that people love. Even if they don't really into Kendrick, they like the fact that he is coming from that lineage of storytelling and poetry. If that
But he
makes
is
sense.
such a lover of hip hop that he weaves a lot of old school people that we love, like Roots, Grandmaster Flash, KRS One.
100%.
He put a lot of
But that was the
effort
point.
into music.
That was the point that he was trying to say. Go somewhere else. Take it
But this
further.
is
We've
what I'm-
seen this before. We've heard
But
this
this is what I'm
before.
saying.
You're not bringing anything new to the table. You're just better than.
No. Look, all right. Think about every other Super Bowl performance. Think about Rihanna.
Okay.
She came out dressed in red. All of her
Right.
dancers were white. Did we say anything about messages? No, because there was no story. Think about when Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem came out, and they had what's those cars that the cars that the low rider, right?
The
Yeah,
hydraulic cars.
hydraulic, the low
Yeah.
rider. That was the
Right.
car on set. Did they tell a story? No, they just performed music, and everyone was like, "Great."
Well, pause.
Every
But that's the
other
thing. You're. It's like
this is what
comparing.
I'm getting at. Hold on. This is what I'm
Yeah,
getting
but
at.
you can't.
These are all
Right.
performances. What
Right.
Kendrick did was tell you a story. He changed scenery. He did a lot in a little bit that we don't really see at a Super Bowl halftime performance. So we're taking that away from him. He did something completely different that we've never gotten, but we're picking this thing apart, saying, "Oh, it should have been more intricate. It should have been less street. It shouldn't have been on the street." Where would you want it if that's his culture and that's where he's coming from and that's his
Well, he
message?
wasn't. To be honest with you, he wasn't the right pick for a Super Bowl performance. To be fair, because if you want something that's general audience, it's like Bruno Mars. I know they're totally two different type of
Yeah, I
artists,
see where you're coming from on
but
that one.
Bruno Mars is
I get
more
what you're saying.
appropriate because this is what he does. And again, I'm not taking away from what he does. He does what he does, and that's what he's supposed to do. What he's supposed to feel as an artist and do as an artist. And honestly, it's almost like taking a circle and putting it into a square space. Maybe he wasn't the best person for that kind
But
of.
that
That's what
doesn't
I
make
was. Yeah,
that
I was
also doesn't make sense.
Wait,
Because every song
hold on.
he
I know you're
plays-
gonna say Corey, but I'm because Drew didn't watch it. He's gonna be a little more, and he's a little bit of a fan. So I'm curious. What are you gonna say, Drew?
No. I would just, as you guys were just hashing it out right now, I just want y'all just duke it out.
Right.
I see Corey's points. No. At the end of the day, I would say neither of you guys. No one's wrong.
Yeah, no one's wrong. Right.
Right.
It's a matter of perspectives more than anything else. And Corey, you're right. Kendrick is a storyteller. He's a poetic, lyrical storyteller, and that's his culture. He comes up from like urban, and not even necessarily like street or ghetto, just urban. That's his style. That's his whole shtick. That's his deal. 7, you're also right in that if you're gonna pick what's typically a commercial, like 5 to 10 minute, like little hoorah for a bunch of audiences across America, white, black, everybody, bring the kids, bring the fam. It's a national event that everyone gathers for to watch happy, like fun spectacles of pop culture crap. Then you may not want Kendrick Lamar to be that guy.
He did it to
Maybe
himself.
instead, get Beyonce so you can have a bunch of color. Even though you could argue people try to put too much symbolism in Beyonce stuff, but if you
Right.
want happy, fun colors
Right.
and just a spectacle of performance, yeah, you get Rihanna. Yeah, you get Beyonce. Yeah, you get
Bruno Mars,
Mars.
which killed
Yeah.
it, by the way. He did a
Yeah,
really
it's
good job.
like, you pick your audience for the best fit.
Right.
But for Kendrick, he did his thing, it sounds like, and people are just, they're kind of divided on it, I guess.
When
But
you
no, I
watch
don't
it,
think he was wrong on this one.
when you watch it, even if you don't know Kendrick, you know all of those songs that he played because they were big hits. He didn't go deep into his album, catalog. He played everything that got him number one or a Grammy or an award. Everyone knew those songs. And to me, it hit. People were singing along. People knew what was happening. They just didn't know what was happening in the performance. And I feel like that's the real big disconnect.
Yeah, that again falls to it's a wide audience. You're appealing a wide swath of people across the entire globe, right? And in American, in American culture, you got just as many white conservatives, you got just as many foreign conservatives, you got a wide group of people that may or may not be Kendrick fans. So when the positive rating isn't 100%, it's not, oh my God, culture war, activate. It's just, it appealed to this
It's
section.
expected, right?
It's expected. Yeah,
And there are
like,
also
you're
a
gonna-
lot of, to be fair, when they never get any light, there are a lot of black conservatives. There are a lot of people that just, hey, I would love to see young black men and women do something different. Can we do something different? Can we just do something different?
Might get your black card taken, 7. Be careful. So,
You know?
some folks.
This is what
Yeah, but you know what, Drew? I remember back in the day when being into anime and sci-fi and fantasy was not cool.
Got you to fights.
And you thought different. So I could care less. I could think a little different about this because, but actually that's a good topic. I'm going to stop right here. I'm just going to do a hard stop. Ladies and gentlemen, just either watch the next part of this next week or just find the other video because this is a very interesting segue.